Welcome back. Joining me now are Sean Kelly and Nick Mankoci. And guys, it was another disappointing weekend for the NMU hockey team.
Yeah, it was, Pete. Anytime your team is swept, whether it be conference or non-conference opponent, you're going to be very disappointed. Unfortunately, the beginning of this year's season looks an awful lot like last year's start. Last year, through the first 6 games, they went 2-4. This year, they're 1-4-1. The first game, I thought the Cats lost their composure too many times during the game. They took too many unnecessary penalties and turned over the puck too much. The second game, however, turned out to be a real good goaltenders duel between Ellingson and Reichard. Both teams played well defensively and had some good offensive upside as well. Unfortunately, Miami found a way to come out on top.
Right. Well, I'm not one for moral victories most of the time, but I think this weekend it was a great moral victory for the Wildcats. They competed against the #1 team in the country. They came back strong Friday night, grabbed the momentum for Saturday, got out to the early lead, and unfortunately penalties really hurt them in the second game. But they hung strong and they really competed.
That does put things in perspective, Sean, that they did play the #1 team in the nation this weekend. And this weekend, they did show signs of improvement.
The Cats did play better this weekend against Miami than they did play against Bemidji. Going into the third period, however, of the first game, they were down 4-0. I thought that was it. Stick a fork in them, they're done. But they showed tenacity and grit and found a way to grind out 3 goals in the third period. I believe that made a statement to Miami saying, hey, we're not going anywhere. We're here to fight. Offensively, they improved in the second game, only getting outshot to Miami by 1 in Saturday's 2-1 loss. Oliver had 3 goals throughout the series. Floric added 2 assists to that. The team had great scoring chances with a couple breakaways. Unfortunately, they weren't able to capitalize on it. They played okay defensively, with the only major mistake being a bench minor for too many men on the ice.
Right. I view the third period of the first game as kind of the way the team has bonded together this season, and it's kind of the defining moment of the season so far. You look at last year when they came back and beat Wisconsin in Wisconsin, and that really propelled them to the 16-win second half. And I really feel that being able to score 3 goals in the third period against the #1 team in the country really pulled this team together, and I think it's going to make a statement to the rest of the CCHA this season. You look at the offense, Mark Oliver, he's accounting for 77% of the offense right now, along with Justin Floric on that first line. You really need to get more scoring from Brown, Hansen, and the second line, Phil Fox as well. And if the Wildcats do get that, I really think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the CCHA the rest of the way.
Reed Ellingson got the start Saturday night for Brian Stewart, who's been struggling this year, guys. Ellingson played well, but we know what Stewie's capable of when he gets hot. Should the team stick with Brian Stewart in goal or go with Ellingson?
Well, Brian Stewart is a great goaltender. He was preseason first team in the CCHA. With that being said, Ellingson has been playing great this season in relief and on the start Saturday night. I really think that the team should start Ellingson, at least for this weekend against Ohio State, kind of send a message to Stewart and get his head back straight and get him back to the solid goaltender that he can be.
I'd have to agree with you, Sean. Even though Stewart is a senior and regarded as one of the leaders on this team, you have to put Ellingson in net for the next series against Ohio State. Right now, he's 4th in the conference with goals against at 1.59, 2nd in the conference at save percentage at .942. Last night, he made a strong statement to being the starting goalie for the next few series at least, making key saves at the most opportune moments. Unlike Stewart this year, though, he hasn't been rattled by any shots or goals that have gone in. He holds his composure very well and continues to play strong. That's what Northern needs in a goalie.
Well, next up for the Cats will be Ohio State, and like NMU, they're off to somewhat of a slow start this year. What do the Cats need to do to get back on track?
In order for the Cats to be successful this weekend against Ohio State, they can't take as many penalties as they have been, and when they do take penalties, they have to kill them. The Cats are 3rd in penalty minutes in the CCHA with 120 through 6 games. That averages out to 20 minutes per game or a period a game. You can't have that. On the penalty kill now, Northern's dead last in the conference with 76.3% in penalty killing. In order to be successful, you have to get that up to maybe 85, 90%. That being said, they take less penalties and they kill the ones that they do take. they'll have a good chance of sweeping the series against Ohio State.
Yeah, I think the Cats have to play a little more disciplined. They weren't too bad in the second game. The bench minor really set them back and allowed the game-winning goal. But if they play a solid penalty kill and convert on a few power plays, I think they'll be in good shape. Historically, playing down in Columbus, the Wildcats have not had much success in the past decade or so. But that being said, I really think that with Gustafson being back from the flu, they're going to be much more solid on defense. And hopefully, as I said before, the second line can get some scoring to help out Mark Olver and Justin Florek. And I think the Cats have a good chance at getting 2 or 3, maybe even 4 points this week in Columbus.
All right, we're going to send it to another break. And when we come back, Brice will rejoin me to discuss the latest on NMU soccer. Stay tuned. Back now to tell us about the GLIAC Women's Soccer Tournament coming up is Brice Burge. And Brice, what can you tell us about it?
Well, it's going to be a big tournament again. The GLIAC tournament has a lot to deal with the postseason tournament selection, so we'll hope that the Wildcats will do well in it. Wildcats are seeded 4th, which means that they'll host against the 5th-seeded Findlay Oilers. The Cats and the Oilers, they tied in the first match in Ohio, but then at the end of the season, the Wildcats were able to defeat them 2-0 at Marquette, and that's a real big deal for the Northern. The other quarterfinal game will be held between Tiffin and Northwood in Tiffin. That should be a big game because of Northwood being able to turn around their program very well. The first and second seeds are Grand Valley and Saginaw Valley respectively, and they get a bye for the opening round.
Northern is hosting their first ever GLIAC tournament game. How big is that for this team, Brice?
It's undescribable how huge this is for the team, especially with the 5th seed being against Findlay. That trip to Ohio is ridiculously long. Findlay is very close to where Bowling Green is at, for those people that don't know the geography. And I believe it's a 10-hour drive, if not 11, depending on how traffic is, and that's just does wonders on the body. Also, this is a big mental setup for the team because the hard work that they've done throughout the years for the upperclassmen and just this season is being physically manifested in the respect that they get for hosting a game.
How far do you think the Cats can go in this tournament, Brice?
Well, I see them winning the first round without an issue. They will easily handle Findlay. But after that, it gets a little hairy because they can make it to the GLIAC final game if they get some help. Being the 4th seed, they would really need Northwood, which is listed 6th, to beat Tiffin. So that way when it goes to the next round, we would get the matchup against Saginaw Valley. To play against Saginaw Valley is a huge difference than to play against Grand Valley because we have a good shot at winning against Saginaw. Both earlier contests this season against the Cardinals resulted in 1-0 losses, but the last game held in Saginaw was really, it should have ended in a 0-0 tie if it wasn't for a really bad call that resulted in a penalty kick that the Cardinals were able to capitalize on. So if we can get that semifinal game against Saginaw instead of Grand Valley, we should be able to face Grand Valley then in the finals.
The quarterfinal game between the Cats and the Oilers will take place at 2 p.m. on Tuesday at the soccer facility behind the Superior Dome. That's going to wrap up this week's edition of Cat Chat. For Brice Burge and the entire Cat Chat crew, I'm Pete Francis. Until next time, go Cats.